It's Sunday, and we are live this Sunday morning with the weather that is mostly quite nice in the eastern part of the United States. We've got severe weather risks from the Midwest to southwestward into Texas. A blizzard is winding down up in the northern plains, and we have what looks like a mostly quiet and more of the same type of week of weather ahead. And we will be discussing that in such incredible detail that your brains will explode. All more that and more today on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So in the midst of all
I
this,
should have I should have gotten some rags if my brain is going to explode
well, or
just to clean up afterward.
at least Bounty though, the quicker picker upper.
Yes, exactly.
You
Exactly.
could catch it before it all spreads out too far. Yeah, by the way, in the midst of all this optimism and equal time, we should say hello to Billy the Kid on the chat board who, is still sitting around with the apocalypse countdown clock up in the upper corner of his screen. So, good morning, Philly. Hope you're having a nice day. We exchanged some uh, conversation on the chat board before the show started today. Anyway, uh, gorgeous here. Got to 80 yesterday. I had a little bit of milky high clouds at times, but on the whole, it was nice. And today, it's just blue sky and sunshine, and heading up to 80 degrees again. Just enjoying it. This is one thing about the South. The springtime is just a phenomenal time of year. It really, uh, you don't have the issues that we have in the Northeast and into the Mid-Atlantic states with the onshore flow and still some uh, leftover patches of dying winter time coming down out of Canada. It's really nice here in the spring, and everything has been green for a couple of weeks now.
This is the other side of the coin with spring. I mean, we have talking about how terrible spring can be sometimes with, you get stuck in a certain weather pattern. Interestingly, today we have what I call a dichotomy weather pattern, Joe. We have folks that are to the east of the New York City area that'll be in the 50s today. And meanwhile, folks to the west of New York City, given the direction of the wind, that could very well be into the 70s, maybe even approaching 80, dare I say, in some spots. So it's an interesting
Yes.
day in terms of temperatures
Yeah, I
across
have a
the tri-state
I
area.
have a graphic up on the screen that expounds on what you just said.
Yes,
I don't know if you could
a
see
half
that.
and half.
I
Well,
don't.
you're running as per usual a little behind, so
Okay. Well, I just
I'll have to.
basically the high temperature profile of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states today.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. I see
So
it
I mean,
now.
this pretty much kind of sums up what's going on. One of the upsides, judging from what's on the satellite right now, and one of the upsides, at least, this is one of those instances that yes, you have an onshore flow, but it's not an onshore flow that's coming out from Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. It's really confined, so there's not a whole lot of moisture that has been coming in. Otherwise, we'd be sitting in low clouds and fog and drizzle and light rain. With temperatures probably in the upper 40s and low 50s, but instead, the air is actually fairly dry. So yeah, there's some patchy clouds here and there, but for the most part, at least for the start of the day today, there's more sun than anything else.
Right. Right. It's a lovely day. We have kind of I won't say a deep blue sky, but we do have kind of a steely blue sky out there, and it's very nice. You can walk out and not freeze to death. But what we're looking for in the upcoming week is temperatures that are going to be well below seasonal normals. Normally, at this time of the year, Joe, somebody on the chat board said, "What's the normal for New York? 60?" Actually, it's more like 65, 66. And we're going to be down in the mid 50s and low 50s in some areas during the middle and latter part of this week. So, once again, unseasonable, or may I say, unreasonably cool weather enveloping the tri state area later on in the week. And it looks like, Joe, based upon some of the long range maps, that we may see below normal temperatures as the rule here going right on into the beginning of May. Yes, May, folks, officially begins 1 week from today. And of course, since May begins on a Sunday this year, that also means that in May, we will have a Friday the 13th as well. So this does not look all that great in the foreseeable future, but we'll take it and look at it for what it is as we move through this week.
Yep. I got the surface map up, and just to elaborate on the fact with regards to the onshore flow, just following the isobars, you can see the ocean fetch is not really all that far. And in fact, when you go from Maine eastward, the winds actually are northwest, and that is not supportive for the low cloud
Low
and fog.
clouds.
Right, it's just not
Yeah.
supportive. So what we're dealing with is just the bottom of the atmosphere getting cooled by the 50-degree-ish ocean. And in the meantime, if we go just a little bit further inland, uh, the winds turn more southerly. There is a stationary boundary that's being analyzed by WPC in southern Delaware across northeastern Virginia, then kind of curls up into western PA. That is very, very weak. But again, you just go inland from western New Jersey westward, your wind is going to be more from the south or even the southwest. Now, that's going to change tomorrow as that uh, onshore flow strengthens a bit in terms of the extent of how far west the cool ocean air is going to get. I think it's going to get a little bit further west tomorrow. So you folks in Pennsylvania, in Maryland, where you're warming up today into the 70s and 80s. Tomorrow it may be about I would say 10 degrees cooler than that. And meanwhile, we've got our what's left of our big storm in the northern plains. There's a 998-ish low after being down to about a 979 yesterday. There's a 998 low on the borders of Minnesota, North and South Dakota, and that low is moving basically northeast. So it's going to be another 2 days before the front that you see in Wisconsin down into Missouri and down into Oklahoma. There's going to be some severe weather risks ahead of that front today, which we'll talk about momentarily. But I'm not seeing this being a severe weather risk for us on Tuesday when the front goes by. There just doesn't seem to be enough support for that.
Well, yeah. But you do agree that as we get into the latter part of the week and into next weekend, we're going to see a noticeable dip as compared to what we normally would see at this time. Yeah.
Clearly. No, the pattern is definitely
Yeah.
going to be colder than normal. There's no question about that. And we all know that the snow lovers are all been screaming for days and days and days now. How come we have this now when we didn't have it back during the winter time? And that's just one of those things. We had the upper patterns were just not there. I mean, we did have stretches where it was cold and stormy, make no mistake, but it's different now because now we've got all these, you've got these leftover cold air masses still up in Canada. The atmosphere's job, by the way, in the springtime is to basically disperse all that cold air, get it out of the Arctic, wait for it to warm up there, and then, as we often see, there'll be a magic moment where a switch will be flipped, and this will all come to an end. Unless we have some crazy summer like the summer of 2009, where we had a blocky pattern going right into the summertime, and it really did not make for great summer weather here in the Northeast. But there'll be that magic moment down the road. We just don't know when.
Well, yeah, so we said this. We've talked about this last week, where sometimes in this pattern you get day after day and week after week of unseasonably cool weather. A lot of people start saying, "When is it going to get warm? When is it going to get warm? I want warm weather and everything." And all of a sudden, as you just mentioned, Joe, it's like somebody flicked a switch, and we jump immediately from cool late winter or early spring right into the throes of midsummer with hot temperatures, and we totally miss out on what you would otherwise define as spring-like temperatures. And then once we're in that hot weather pattern, that's when everybody starts screaming, "Oh, I wish it was cool. I don't want to run the air conditioner." I mean, sometimes you just can't win. And I don't know. I have that feeling that this is once again going to be the pattern for the next month or two. We're going to be going through a long throes of cool or chilly weather, and then all of a sudden, click, we go right into the very, and that's what happened last year. And
Yeah.
if you remember last year during the Memorial Day holiday weekend, we had temperatures here in New York under cloudy, dreary, drizzly skies that were barely able to make it much above 50. I mean, that was Memorial Day weekend. And then very quickly, once we got into mid and late June, boom, we went right into the hot, sticky weather, which we stayed in for much of the summer. So who
Right.
knows? We might see a repeat of that
And,
sometime down the road.
and by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have the odd day here, or actually even the odd day or two, where it warms up and goes above normal, above average. Um, yeah, that could happen. But if you're, as we've been saying now for the better part of a week, if you're looking for sustained warmth, and by sustained I mean getting into stretches of 4, 5, 6, 7 days and beyond, where temperatures are running above average and the weather is decent, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. It's just not going to happen, certainly in the next 10 days to 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the rotation from the storm in the northern plains, of course, left some big snows, and this is the second one in 10 days for the Dakotas and eastern Montana. A large area of 12 to 18 in much of western North Dakota. The last one was more statewide from one end to the other. This one is more confined to the western part of North Dakota, and also northwestern South Dakota, which wound up not really getting very much from the last blizzard. This time around, we've got bands of 8 to 12 in a fairly large area, and 6 plus in much of eastern Wyoming and eastern Montana and northeastern Wyoming, with some isolated pockets of about a foot. Looks like Rapid City. It's funny, Rapid City, and I guess it's testament to the forecast. They weren't going for very much there at all, for specifically for Rapid City, but for the areas just like there's a county line that's just north of Rapid City, and they were under a blizzard warning in that county northwest, and it really worked out in terms of how they forecast. I noticed this yesterday. It's like, boy, that's a sharp cutoff. But yeah, that's kind of what happened here. There was a sharp cutoff to the north and west. So see, folks, it's not just the East Coast that gets these sharp cutoffs where you go from nothing to half a foot or a foot. It happens everywhere. It's just that when it happens here, people, cry, and there's wailing and gnashing of teeth, as opposed to when it happens elsewhere. Meanwhile, on the radar, because if let me just go back to the satellite for a moment. There's over the top of this storm, we're getting some blow off cloudiness that's working its way from northwestern New England to southeastern New England, and you can see that cloud cover just going northwest to southeast. It doesn't look like it's making any kind of westward progress. It's been sitting there pretty much in the same spot all day today, and as a result, there actually are some rain showers showing up on the radar in northeastern New York, down into Massachusetts. There's a little patch there of some light rain shower activity moving southeastward. If that patch I'm just wondering if that patch in Massachusetts holds up. That might clip southeastern Connecticut and southeastern and eastern Long Island later this afternoon. There's also some echoes aloft, and I think this might be more of a reflection of the little strip of high clouds that's showing up in parts of northern New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania for the time being. There's a little precip being indicated aloft, but I doubt that that's going to wind up reaching the ground. The air is too dry. Meanwhile, radars are silent, the middle and south Atlantic states, and we have the the cold front with some developing showers and thunderstorms from the Great Lakes southwestward through the middle Mississippi Valley and down into the southern plains. And that is where the severe weather risk is today, Joe Rayo. Believe it or not, we have a slight risk of severe in northeastern Illinois, northwestern Indiana, and the southeastern half of the lower peninsula of Michigan, and also a slight risk indicated in south central Texas there, in all part of that strip, and marginal risk showing up in between. For tomorrow, we are at a marginal risk for severe weather in a small strip in northwestern Pennsylvania and southwestern New York, southern Ohio, and northeastern Kentucky, and another area of marginal risk back around southeast and the coastal around the inland of the coastal bend of Texas, showing up with marginal risk there. And that's it as far as severe weather is concerned, because on day 3, when that front is going to be approaching the East Coast, SPC doesn't even have a general thunderstorm risk. They have it up to about the Delmarva Peninsula and points southward into the southeast and Gulf states, but they don't have it any further north than that. And in the long range, we don't see anything showing up as far as severe weather risk is concerned. And that's good.
That is good. It's nice. But, Joe, one of the things that I've been looking at some of the long range outlooks taking us well into the month of May,
And
and
if you,
also the
and by the way,
CPC, the Climate Prediction
if
Center.
you wish to
Yeah.
share that, feel free to do so.
Okay. What I was going to say is that it looks like that we are going to be seeing all um, here in the east. We'll be seeing more often stretches of clouds and wet weather above normal precipitation, and I'll get that up for you in just a matter of a few moments. But it seems that for the moment, at least, and for the next few weeks, that here in the east it looks kind of coolish and wet more often than not. And meanwhile, in the southwest, Joe, they are continuing to be plagued by drought conditions, exceedingly dry conditions. And I'm sure that many of our people on the chat board have seen on the national news summary that portions of Arizona and New Mexico have been seeing wildfire activity, particularly around the Flagstaff area of Arizona. They're calling that the tunnel fire, where they've had tens of thousands of acreage burned to the ground, and even something like 2 or 3 dozen homes have been destroyed by flames and fire. It's a sad situation. So I almost wish we could transport some of the wetness, and we've had overly wet weather here for the last few weeks here in the Northeast. I wish there was some way we could transport that to the southwestern states where they could really use that moisture. But again, very dry conditions in the desert Southwest, even more so than you would normally expect for this time of the year.
Yeah, and I was just looking off while you were speaking. I was looking at the upper air going forward, and I'll show it in a little bit after you do what you're going to do. Uh, the uh, the long range is more of the same, very blocky. That's the one thing that kind of stood out to me when I was looking at this. The long range uh, looks just blocky, and that's a problem. This time of year, well, any time of year certainly, but when you're in the depths of spring, the issue is going to be the fact that you are going to have uh, situations where you could wind up with quite a bit of wet weather. As you said, we're in a wet pattern overall. It's nice that we've had this wonderful dry stretch at the moment. But yeah, I can see, just when I looked at the upper air, I could see that there's not much that's going to change. The Southwest is going to stay dry, and I guess a lot of this has to do with the La Nina the way it is. How much longer that lasts, I don't know, but it is certainly, I think, playing a big role in how our weathers are set, the way the weather, or the extreme nature of the weather being set up right now.
Right, and I just, per your request, I'm sharing the Climate Prediction Center's precipitation outlook, probability of precipitation outlook, and as you can see, Joe, now this is the 8 to 14 day precip outlook. This takes us up to the 7th of May, the end of the first week of May. And as you could see here in the east, they have virtually the entire eastern seaboard, save for northern and eastern Maine and much of the Florida Peninsula. Everywhere else, it's above normal. And right here, right in this region, right here, we have amounts of, I guess you could call it 40 to 50% chance or probability of above normal across portions of Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, into Maryland, where more often than not you're going to be seeing above normal. And look out west in the southwestern states, where it has been for much of the last few weeks, below normal probability for precipitation over much of Arizona, virtually all of New Mexico. And again, that doesn't bode well in the wildfire scenario that we have been seeing over recent days around here.
Yeah. All right. Well, uh, just going on the theme of the long range. I've got a teleconnection up, and we'll put that on the screen as soon as you unshare. Oh, actually, I don't even have to wait for you to unshare. I could switch. But this was
Well, I just unshared just now.
I know, because you're a good person. Here's
Yes.
here's the by the way, CPC redid those teleconnection graphics, and they're a lot easier to read now, and I can blow them up to a reasonable size instead of trying to squint my eyes figuring out just exactly what in the hell I'm looking at. But look at the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, which basically measures pressure changes in the North Atlantic, higher than normal pressures in the North Atlantic and up in the Arctic region around Greenland, for example, stretching to Scandinavia. That is the kind of pattern we're in right now when it goes negative. And in fact, we are plunging negative by 1 and then eventually by May 1st, Joe, between 1 and 2 standard deviations from the mean. Which is the strongest negative signal that we've had going back to the beginning of January. And just looking back at the winter time, we actually, if you think back to December, which was not which was a warm month, and we spent much of the time with December with an NAO that was kind of straddling the neutral line, but it wasn't really having any kind of impact because the other teleconnections were all in the wrong place. But from January right through the middle of March, we had, except for one little stretch around mid-January where the NAO went neutral for a few days, it was positive through the whole winter. Not even a remote attempt to take it negative through the whole winter. Then we went negative toward the end of March, and this coincides with the big split in the polar vortex that occurred at the end of March. And now we've been seeing that play out since the middle of April. We've had a brief jump up positive for a few days, right around from the 15th to about the 18th or so. And now it's crashing negative again and going negative for the rest of the month. And it looks like for at least the first 7 or 8 days of the month of May. So and this, by the way, is something that happens most of the time in the spring. It's just a measure of where we are in the time of year, and really, most of the time, most of the spring months will have a negative NAO. It's the other teleconnections that are driving the colder air. Now, if I can only get CPC to listen to me, because we know they watch our show regularly, Joe. They just pay attention to us almost continuously. But if you can get an East Pacific oscillation graphic up, that would be nice. Thank you. That's all. Now, just going back to what I was saying with regards to the upper air, just take a look at this. Focus your attention, folks, on what's going on up in this area here, because this is where we're seeing these, the negative NAO playing out with higher than normal pressures there. Here we are, I'm just up to about April 29th. The flow in the Northeast is basically coming out of eastern Canada. And in fact, as we go into next week, one of the interesting things that happens is you get a cutoff that drives down into the Great Lakes and moves into the Northeast. This is at the end of next week, which is now, so we're talking next Friday. If we just follow the flow of the upper atmosphere, look where our air is coming from. And there's going to be a point where the air in Canada is going to be actually warm and dry. We're just not there yet. But we're still, again, dispersing what's left of the cold Arctic air that builds up in this region during the winter months. But look at where the upper flow is setting up. Basically from northwest Canada or north central Canada right down into the Western Lakes, down into the South Atlantic states, and out to the east. You cannot get warm with a flow like this. You just cannot get warm with this.
Yeah, and there is also, I'm going to try to bring this up here. Hang on for a second.
All right, let me switch back.
Okay, this is something that was sent to me by one of my Facebook followers, and it shows as of Friday, April 22nd, the sea ice percentage, and the snow cover. And yeah, this the person who sent me this was a gentleman's name is Marty Sharrow. I don't know if he is a lurker of Joe and Joe, but he does write lots of available cold air given the ample ice and snow cover upstream. And I'll bring that graphic up right now so that you can take a look at it. Yeah, take a look, Joe, at this. This is, I presume that all the areas of white is where there is what he is referring to ample snow and ice cover.
Right.
Look at all of that. Look at all of that, and that's and at the air and the flow continues in a blocky pattern. If we continue to get an airflow, upper level airflow from the north and west, then it's gliding over all of this
Oh
before
yeah.
coming into our neck of the woods. So, with that having been said, it may very well be that it's going to be a while before we get into a pattern of comfortable air. When I say comfortable, I say that every time the winds blow out of the north and northwest, it's not like all of a sudden standing in front of your 1200 BTU air conditioner and getting blasted with unseasonable cold weather. It may be a while before all of this disappears, and when the winds come out of the northwest, you get that nice, pleasant airflow. But it looks like from here on, it looks like for the next few weeks, with all of this air, with all of this ice and snow cover still over northern Canada, the polar regions, going all the way back up to Siberia, that we might be in line for an extended period of unseasonably cool weather.
Yeah, and in the meantime, at least with what's like I said earlier, for the South Atlantic states, weather is just, I mean, it really is quite nice, and should hold on for a little while longer. Just take a look at the surface here with that low up in Minnesota, and North Dakota, moving northeastward into Canada, northwest of Lake Superior. You've got the trailing cold front. Now Monday, as we mentioned, you'll notice the isobars, the easterly isobars with the high to the northeast push further inland. So that's going to mean those inland areas today that are getting into the 70s and 80s are going to be at least 10 degrees lower for tomorrow. Although I don't think you're going to have too much to deal with. There's also a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity that might. There's probably a bit of a sea breeze front that'll set up inland, and there could be a scattered shower or thunderstorm. I think over say northern Virginia to through central PA, and on up into parts of south central New York late tomorrow afternoon or evening. I don't think it'll be anywhere else because the axis of that is going to be pretty far west. And then we've got the front to come through on Tuesday. There doesn't look like there's too much with it. Maybe a couple of showers when it goes by, but there will be a little wave on the southern end of that front Tuesday night into Wednesday that's going to run up the coast with a little bit of rain, not a lot, from the southeast. You can see it there in Alabama and Georgia Tuesday afternoon, into eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, and southern Virginia Tuesday evening, and then it just passes offshore Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And then behind it, with a low that's going to be just kind of sitting over Nova Scotia, and higher pressures and cooler air coming down out of eastern Canada into the eastern part of the U.S., at least down into the southern mid-Atlantic states. I would think that would be the southern extent of it. But nonetheless, it is going to be cool. And by the way, that high up in eastern Canada holds all through the rest of next week and into next weekend. Now, there's a low that the models are picking up on. There's another low that's developing in Kansas, Oklahoma, late next week that moves eastward, east-northeastward into Illinois, and then starts to push northward from there. It's going to be pressing against that onshore flow. So I don't know if that means if that's right or not. The blockiness might suggest that that thing could be a little bit further south and flatter, which would not be good news, say, a week from today, and getting us into clouds, rain, and an ocean flow. So that's something we'll probably have to pay attention to. Um, and beyond that, I mean, there's really not a whole lot that's different going forward. As we said, it's just the same old story. Somebody last week was uh, complaining at me because it's saying, you don't, you never, all you guys talk about is snow and cold, and you don't talk about hot weather. Well, guess what? There isn't any hot weather to talk about. I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do. Make it up? If it's not there, it's not there, and it's not there. It just simply
Yeah,
isn't there. And
right,
and also, by the way,
right. Oh,
what wasn't there was the maps, which I forgot to switch back. I was so good today. I was following you along. I was switching back and forth. This is it happens. All right, so here I'll run it through you guys for you guys again. But there you have it. You see the front for Tuesday just kind of falls apart with just a couple of showers, and you get this wave that comes up Tuesday night and Wednesday, and behind that, it is just chilly and dry into next weekend, and then we've got this low that comes out of Kansas, as we said, moves toward the lower lakes. Whether that it looks like it's already occluding out. It's going to be fighting against some higher pressures up in eastern Canada, so the blocky pattern might force that further south and east. So we'll see what happens uh, as the week progresses. We'll have to watch for that for next Sunday and Monday. And then beyond that, there really isn't too much here to hope for with regards to warm weather. Like as I said, it just ran through the next 16 days. There's no warm weather anywhere. And in fact, if this 384-hour were correct, and we know it's not going to be, the only place where we're going to be very warm would probably be right along the immediate Gulf Coast down to Florida and South Texas, because everybody else is going to be stuck in an east-west frontal boundary that runs from North Carolina on west into the central Rockies. Now, again, this is probably not going to look like this, but I'm just giving you the idea of what the pattern that we're in, and what it can produce in this time of year. So again, no sustained heat, no sustained warm weather anytime soon, and except for a few odd places, nowhere. It's not happening anywhere else either.
Right. There's nothing. There's nothing. But again, that may be the case now, and may be the case for the next few weeks. But as we have seen, Joe, it's almost like at times a switch has been flipped, and who knows what we're going to see either later in May or the beginning of June, where all of a sudden all of the heat that is more or less not in evidence now suddenly rears its ugly head and places us into. And of course, with the increase in heat, that also would mean the increase in the potential for tropical activity over the tropical Atlantic. Will we see this month of May, for example, as we have seen for many other Mays in the last decade, will we see a full-fledged tropical system, a tropical storm system, or even a hurricane rev up before the official start of the hurricane season on June the 1st?
I thought did they change it to a May 15th? The outlook starts May 15th now.
It starts May 15th, but
did they change the official
but
start of the hurricane season to June 1st? Or I know they were
I don't.
talking about it. Maybe they didn't. I think they said something last year that uh, starting the outlooks 2 weeks earlier and the start of hurricane season don't necessarily, have to coincide. So, but I think
Right.
the
I
outlook
think if we,
the outlooks start on the
I,
15th.
th- I the outlook may start on the 15th, but I think that if National Hurricane Center officially said we're now pushing the start of hurricane season back to the 15th of May, you would have probably have seen that or heard about it on the national news. They're mentioning all sorts of nonsense sometimes when they want to get your attention with a bullet box or two. I'm sure we would have heard about that, especially we who keep our eyes and ears peeled on any weather news. So I think the beginning of the hurricane season still is on the 1st of June. That may not be for very much longer, though, considering what we've seen in recent years. And that's why I say I think 8 out of the last 10 years we've had our first tropical cyclone appear in the month of May. And I tell you what, Joe, if it happens again this year, this season, I think that'll be it. I think the National Hurricane Center will have no other choice but indeed move the hurricane season backwards to the 15th of May.
Well, I think we've had a tropical storm 5 out of the last 6 Mays. And when you think about it, Joe, I can't recall a May tropical storm anytime in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. There might be one in there, but I just don't recall it. But it's been whatever cycle we're in. And bear in mind, folks, we had this back weeks ago when the Hurricane Center released if you go to NHC's website, nhc.noaa.gov, they just did a re-review of the 1965 to 1970 and had a time frame, and they added a whole bunch of tropical storms that were not considered to be tropical storms at the time. And it wasn't just one or two; it was quite a few. And then they changed a few things with some of the other storms, making them weaker or stronger depending on the data they had. But they're doing all sorts of reanalysis. So the notion that tropical activity in the month of May was virtually non-existent may just have been a wrong notion to begin with. Once they do this reanalysis as they go back, and also the fact that the normals have been climbing up, I think has to do with the fact that um, they're figuring out that there were a lot of storms that they missed or didn't consider to be tropical storms that they're looking back and saying, oh, you know what, they were tropical storms, and it's making the numbers go higher because the data's better and they're getting uh, they're getting it all up to date.
Yep. Yep. Indeed.
All right.
And no, nothing. I would just following along there and agreeing with you.
Yes, which is always a wise thing to do, to agree with me. Let's get Mrs. Rayo. It's such a nice day. Let's get Mrs. Rayo. Let's run quickly through. Let's do Briller Jeopardy today because it's the usual Sunday cooking Briller Jeopardy that we have.
Mrs. Rayo.
Paging sure. Mrs. Rayo. Paging Mrs. Rayo.
I just heard now the kitchen. The right above me is the kitchen where she watches Joe and Joe, and I just heard the chair get moved. So I think she is going to be on her way down.
While she munches on a you need a biscuit and drinks it has a cup of soup. Do they still have?
Comes. I can hear it come.
Do they still have you need a biscuits?
I don't know.
The History Channel has a whole thing on on
Nabisco.
On Nabisco, and it talks about how they came up with the Oreo cookie, and then how the competition. What was the competing cookie company? Was it?
I see graphics here for you need a biscuit, but I don't know whether or not it's still there or still happening.
I've never seen it in the store.
You need a biscuit.
Yeah, that I think they stopped making the you need a biscuits, and they came in these nice tins too, as I remember.
You may wait a minute. I'm going to move my headset here. You can make the announcement.
Oh.
I'm getting out.
And we say thank you to Leon for that big super chat hit.
Leon of Lindenhurst. Very good. So how have you been?
He lives in Lindenhurst. Oh, I'm good. I'm here. I'm one of those lurkers that Joe mentioned earlier.
Yes. All right. So let's run. I was thinking as I was looking at these questions that what would be interesting is if I gave you the answer and you had to come up with the question.
Oh, okay. That's a nice twist.
But it would be, but I could say I'll give you one of the choices on the first question. For example, is carrot. And just say carrot. You'd have to come up with the question. And
what do bunnies eat?
Yeah, exactly. But the question is, which of the following vegetables is not one of the ingredients of V8 juice? Is it beets?
Oh.
Beets, and Joe drinks V8, so you should know this.
Yes.
Beets, carrots, spinach, or cabbage.
I would think cabbage is not in there.
And
that doesn't provide any flavor and too much gas.
And exactly. And you would have been correct. It is cabbage. Our second question today, and I think it's a question we had once before, is what is the main ingredient of vichyssoise? Vichyssoise. Lima beans, clams, tomatoes, or potatoes?
Oh, this is like over my head now. It's not lima beans, that's for sure. What were my choices again?
Lima beans, clams, tomatoes, or potatoes?
I'm going to say potatoes.
And you are correct. And speaking of potatoes, what country produces the most potatoes? Is it China, the United States, Ireland, or Russia?
States, I think it's either United States or China. I'm going to guess China.
And China is the correct answer. So you've gotten 3 in a row. What soft drink company introduced the brand Slice?
Slice. Well, that's like a lemon lime soda. Oh, I think it's, well, obviously it's either Coca-Cola or Pepsi, right? So which would
I'm
it be?
sorry,
I think it's the Pepsi.
did I give you the choices?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So let me give you the choices there. Those choices are Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola, 7 Up, or PepsiCo.
Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola. I'm going to just guesstimate the Pepsi company.
You should have went with the other cola. Coca-Cola is the
Oh, really?
yes.
Okay.
According to
All right.
this is an easy one. According to a 1980s beverage media poll of 400 bartenders, what is the average male customer's favorite drink? Is it beer, bourbon, scotch, or vodka?
Beer, bourbon, scotch, or vodka. It has to be beer. Has to be
And
beer.
that has to be the correct answer. Now
Yeah.
let's address the same question to women. What is the female customer's favorite drink? Is it beer, margarita, peach schnapps with and orange juice, or white wine?
White wine. I'd have to say white wine.
Right. Correct. That
Yeah.
is correct.
Boring. Yeah.
Yes.
And probably lower in calories than a lot of the other. That and vodka. A lot of
Yes.
women like vodka because it has
Well,
virtually no
and
calories.
vodka tastes like whatever you put in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Simpless is NutraSweet's fat substitute. What is it made of? Is it a blend of proteins from egg whites and milk, fat molecules altered to be too large to digest, or molecules that are the mirror image of normal fat molecules?
I'm going to go with the first one. I have no idea either, but it sounded good.
A blend of proteins from egg whites and milk, and that is the correct answer.
How many of you knew that?
Yes. Which grade of olive oil is considered the best? Extra virgin, pure virgin, superfine virgin?
Extra virgin olive
That
oil.
is
Yeah.
correct. What vegetable? What vegetable has varieties known? This is easy. What vegetable has varieties known as bell, tower, or orabelle, and Jupiter? Is it the onion, the pepper, or the squash?
Oh, that's pepper. Pepper for sure.
Okay, and that is the correct answer. And and I believe the final question today is, in the drink called a zombie, what is the main alcoholic ingredient? Is it beer, brandy, rum, or whiskey?
I would educated guess here. I would say rum.
And that is a very good educated guess. It is rum. So except for slice, the slice question, you got 9 out of 10. That's very good.
All right, not bad, not bad.
What?
Yeah, we're not soda drinkers anymore. I think a lot of people have dropped off from drinking sodas.
Yeah, no, I don't do soda. Most people do.
Right?
They're doing energy drinks or the flavored waters. Just is pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah, I every once in a while I'll have a Coke if I go out to eat or something.
And that's like a treat,
Yeah,
right? It's
but
like a big treat.
yeah, but in terms of day to day, and I never really was a big soda drinker. Maybe when I was a kid, yeah, but
Yes. Yes.
no, Tom Contino, I don't drink zombies, or for that matter, I don't drink anything else. I even stopped drinking wine because of my medical issues. So I'm off alcohol for now because that does impact my tummy. So I just um, refrain. Although I can cook with it, which is good because at least it burns the alcohol off and leaves the fruity stuff.
Leaves the taste.
Leaves the taste, exactly. All right, you know what? The weather is nice. Go have a nice day, and we'll see you next week.
Bulletin. Your daughter just got Wordle in 3.
Oh.
Oh, are you playing Wordle?
Marie and I go back and forth. Yes, Wordle every day,
Uh,
every day.
what
You know,
did I
usually
get?
midday I get an announcement from her. I got
Hang,
it in 3 today, and
hang
yesterday
on,
she came to me.
hang
Yeah.
on a second. I got it. I don't know if it was yesterday. I think yesterday I got it in 2.
Oh wow.
And I mean, you have to be, you know, literally the first word I put in, 4 of the 5 letters were in the right place. So
Oh
I had to
wow.
just guess the.
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah.
the middle letter was missing. I had the first 2 and the last 2, and I got. Let me see. Today I got it in 4.
Okay.
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 Uh, and
And what did Maria say? She got it in 3.
She got it in
3. So
by the
now
way,
it's my turn.
there is a version of Wordle on here on the at least it is on the Play Store on Android called Word WORDE. Okay. Now there's a couple of Wordle variations, but they have a lot of ads. This one has not only has no ad, I mean it has minimal ads. It's at the bottom of the screen and they're they don't bother you, but you can put it in unlimited mode, so you can play all day long if you want. And it also has
Oh
modes
wow.
where you can change it to 4 letter words, 5 letter words, 6, 7, or 8 letter words. So
Oh,
if you
that
really
gets
want to
hard.
challenge your brain. So today on
Yes,
this one,
yes.
I got it. I played a bunch of them already, and the last one I did, I got it in 3. So that was good.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm
Okay.
enjoying.
Chris,
I just started playing this a few days ago, and I'm really enjoying it.
yeah, yeah. I've been doing it for many weeks now, and my daughter and I go back and forth all the time, challenging each other. Yesterday she goes, "Oh, this one was a hard one. It took me 5, and then I came back 5 minutes later. It's just like I got it in 3. Damn, I'm good."
Yeah. Exactly. All right, go have a nice
Well, it
day.
depends on what you start out with.
Oh yeah,
Christina Pedia says I haven't fallen down the rabbit hole of Wordle yet. now she's going to start. She will.
yeah.
Okay, here's Joe.
Okay, have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Is Wordle New York Times?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. See, this is part of the reason why I don't deal with Wordle, because for 15 years I had a column in the New York Times called Skywatch, where I provided information on what was happening in the sky during this week, and then all of a sudden, in 2013, they said, "Well, sorry, the bean counters decided that they didn't want to have Skywatch anymore." It was on the weather page of the New York Times, and a lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people got very upset when it was cut. And it seems like these days the New York Times is only interested in one thing: fun and games. They, of course, continue to have the crossword puzzle, and now they've added Wordle. And more than a few times I had
They
suggested,
also have other games too, like Spelling Bee and a
yeah,
few others.
yeah, but they're not interested in continuing, with interesting, you know, thought-provoking columns like Skywatch. And said that was 2013 when I did my last Skywatch, and one person actually did a long thing saying, if you continue to cut interesting features out of the Times like Skywatch, eventually all you're going to end up with is just a newspaper of basic news and the crossword puzzle. And in some ways, I have to agree. There are a lot of things that you used to find in the New York Times that are not there anymore. Fun and
Yeah.
games, yeah. And you want to know something really interesting is that when I was in junior high school, the head of District 8 in the Bronx, a gentleman's name was Eugene T. Maleska. And he ended up, and I knew him quite well. I knew Dr. Maleska quite well from my days when I was in 9th grade. And he eventually worked his way up to become the guy who put the crossword puzzles together for the New York Times. He was the editor for many, many years. I'd laugh. I said, I know who that guy is, Eugene Maleska. And then all of a sudden I ended up with a column, and I said, who would have thought, right, that, the guy who did the crossword puzzle and the guy who was one of his students in District 8 in the Bronx ended up being columnists for the New York Times. But anyway, I don't get involved with that. I find for my free time, I find my way of investing in a lot of other interesting things as opposed to sitting here and trying to. Isn't Wordle kind of like a different type of Wheel of Fortune type game in a way when you're
Well,
trying to figure out?
it's a little more challenging because you have it's 5 letter words. You have 6 attempts. Okay, and as you put you put in 5 letter words, it'll tell you which letters are right, in the right spots, which letters are right but in the wrong spots, and which letters are wrong. So it's basically, a process of elimination and trying to move things around. It is challenging though. It's not a given, and you have 6 attempts to get them all. And by the way, they only put 1 word a day, so you do it in the morning or you do it whenever, and you're done. It's just like a quick
Yeah,
thing, and then you do it the next day. But frankly, I'm enjoying it. I like having my brain, you know, twisted around a little bit. Um, Otherwise, I don't want it to become mush. It's already mushy enough.
I'm seeing that. It's interesting from the moment that I had brought up that graphic showing the world and how much snow covers over the polar regions and in Canada or whatever. And I had mentioned that I'd gotten that off of Facebook, and our dear friend on the chat board, Tom Contino, immediately turned that into used it as a political statement against Facebook, and he has been, you know, he's been blithering politics all through our session here this morning. So I look at whatever he puts now on the chat board and just ignore it completely. So because this is not
Uh,
political, this is just
yeah,
this is
it's
this is
exactly.
this is
I don't
it's
know what I don't know what
yeah.
Facebook has nothing to do with the fact that somebody that follows you put up this graphic, which by the way I'm sure is probably easily accessible to everybody else, from from the Climate Prediction Center, the Weather Service, or whoever handles those things. So yeah, there's nothing political. But you know what? You've got some people are obsessed with politics. Okay, I mean they're just constantly obsessed with politics. Everything is political. What you have for breakfast is political. You know, it's it. I have no use for that. I have no use for that. I don't have time for that. That's why I don't watch television news. I don't watch MSNBC. I don't watch CNBC. I'm sorry, I don't watch Fox News. I watch CNBC because it's business news, and that's money, and everybody understands money. So especially if they want more of it or have for some reason wind up with less of it. But everything else is just BS. I can't be bothered with all that crap, and not everything is political. So, between that and having to deal with, you've got Billy the Kid who wakes up every day thinking that the world is coming to an end. Honestly, and I told him this on the chat board, and I tell everybody else, how do you live that way? A, how do you live that way? B, more importantly, you're talking about your grandkids and you fear for their survival. I mean, do you talk to your grandkids this way? Because frankly, if you talk to your kids like that or your great grandkids, they don't want to be around that. Nobody wants to be around someone that spews negativity constantly. I knew people that were like that. After a while, it's like, you know what? I can't be near you. Go away. And you want to spout negativity all day long? Go right ahead. Because you know what? At the end of the day, we're all dead anyway. So what's the point? My God. Um,
So based upon that final note, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to close out today's version of Coffee with Joe and Joe, and we'll be back tomorrow night. And by the way, happy birthday, Nick Gregory. Nick is turning
yes, Nick.
62 years old today.
Yeah, the child that he is. Not us.
And
You're
Nick is,
not us like us old saws that have already passed 62.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yes,
So
Christina
we will
Pedia,
see you.
that was a Joe rant. No, it's like it was such a beautiful day this morning. I'm looking outside. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to get the show done. I'm going to go down to the dog park. JJ's going to, has been patiently waiting for me to take him, and I'm feeling good. And it's like the first thing I see is somebody just talking about all this negativity. It's like, go away. Just don't, do that someplace else. Don't do it here. And don't do the politics here either. It's just, I don't care that the Times was biased against Trump, Tom. That's not exactly breaking news. So who cares? Really? I mean, seriously, who cares? All right? It doesn't exactly. So there. All right, yeah. Go. Have a good afternoon. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Time. Bye, everybody.